Hi, welcome back to the channel. It's Adam here, and today we are talking about The Invite. It is a big year for Olivia Wilde. I've already reviewed one of her new releases from this year, I Want Your Sex, co-starring Cooper Hoffman, directed by Greg Araki. It's great. Go check out my review of that. But if you're watching this, we are going to be talking about The Invite. This movie is an adaptation of the 2020 Spanish film The People Upstairs, and it is adapted by Rashida Jones and Will McCormick. I think Olivia Wilde as a director is so fascinating. So far, she has directed two pieces that are wildly different thematically, tonally, and in scale. And I think this third outing is another drastic pivot. It is a comedy largely confined to one single apartment with just four actors: Olivia Wilde herself, Seth Rogen, Penelope Cruz, and Edward Norton. And it dives into one chaotic evening where Joe, played by Seth Rogen, and Angela, played by Olivia Wilde, a couple who are kind of on thin ice, invite their enigmatic and noisy wink neighbors Pina, played by Penelope Cruz, and Hawk, played by Edward Norton, over for dinner. As the evening unfolds, so does the chaos, so does the drama, so does the tension. I think despite the fact that this movie is really confined in terms of its scope, we never feel those constrictions. Olivia Wilde actually delivers something that feels really expansive despite the limited setting, despite the small cast. It feels really expansive and really nonstop and pulse pounding. From the jump, we are just dropped into nonstop tension. Like I mentioned, Angela and Joe are kind of on the brink of collapse, and from the minute they start interacting after Joe comes home from work, it is just non-stop, and your heart rate is going to rise. You're already in the thick of it. It feels like we are watching something we shouldn't. When you go to your friend's house and their parents fight in front of you, like that kind of vibe. But we also can't look away because it is a bit funny too. Rashida Jones and Will McCormick, with the screenplay, they managed to harness the friction of these relationships between Joe and Angela, and later when Pina and Hawk come into the picture, and they use that friction to expertly blend raucous comedy, nail-biting tension, and deep melancholy as the evening unfolds. The differences, the dichotomy between communication, desires, and perception all breed excellent moments for this intricate emotional concoction to succeed. Yes, we are crawling in our skin. Yes, we are looking for the door and trying to figure out a way out of this, but we're also laughing raucously. And also there is a part of us that is kind of aching for these people. The punchy dialogue is operating kind of in dualities. For example, at one point, Angela makes a comment that their apartment is very cold and lacks a lot of heat. Obviously, that is a double entendre, and I loved how the screenplay uses these mundane observations to communicate the realities of the relationships we're observing. It's very precise, but it's never heavy-handed. And I think Jones and McCormick with the screenplay have clearly defined characters that allow their actions to reveal the inner workings rather than just simply telling the audience. These four are very unique and very interesting, and I think they could fall into archetypal territory, right? But they are so clearly drawn, and they do have these great actors, which we'll get into, steering the ship. Angela really yearns to be seen, while her husband Joe rarely feels heard. And then we have Pina and Hawk, who sometimes feel like a direct mirror to Joe and Angela, and then they also feel like an example of what they want to be. On paper, these characters are kind of an actor's dream, and I think Olivia Wilde's assembled an ensemble that lifts them right off the page and adds endless dimension. Olivia Wilde herself plays Angela, and I think this is an excellent performance from her. It's one of her best, and I think she harnesses Angela's manic energy and bottles it in a way that is both overwhelming and endearing. We are rooting for her, but we're kind of afraid of her because what if something goes wrong? She is one mishap away from totally losing it. We can feel her trying so hard to keep it all together, and it's just seeping out. She cannot control it, and she really wants this night to go well. There's this earnestness, she is pining on every word Pina and Hawk say. She really wants their approval, and she has these dagger eyes that she throws back at Joe when he doesn't perform in the way she is hoping he will. Which brings me to Joe. I think this is also probably one of Seth Rogen's finest performances. His signature humor really shines bright here. He knows how to use these little one-liners to suck the air right out of the room at moments. He always finds these inappropriate gaps to make a quip that really just just throws everything off, but like earns a lot of laughs from the audience. However, the most impressive moments are the ones where Rogen really allows us into Joe's anger. Joe is very frustrated. Like I said, he doesn't feel heard. He does not feel like his voice matters to Angela. He feels like a failure. He can only kind of see his failures. He can't see the other like good stuff in front of him. And it does stand in the way of him seeing Angela the way she wants to be seen. There's something so sad masked beneath Joe's intense need to joke through a situation. And I think Seth Rogen really sits in these quiet moments beautifully. His eyes are so alive in this film. Edward Norton as Hawk is a bit of an odd bird in the best of ways. I think he pushes Hawk's incessant need for honesty to uncomfortable and hilarious places that are both agonizing yet charming. Like, this guy is kind of your worst nightmare, right? He is making everything uncomfortable. He is like leading the way for things to escalate, but like you can't help but love that he's there. He commands the room. He has this charm. He has this allure. Hawk feels like a performance for a majority of the runtime, right? Like, it does feel like Edward Norton is putting something on, but Norton really steals the show with a stunning act of vulnerability via a third act monologue that we won't get into, but like some stunning work there. This whole ensemble is really great, but I think for me, Penelope Cruz was my big standout. The way she just like holds the frame, the way she commands the room without like doing a whole lot. She just has a remarkable presence that really works for this character. We don't know what Hawk and Pina really are all about. We don't know what their like vibe or their deal is until a bit later. And I think she really makes it mysterious and enticing. You never really know what she's gonna do next. She has this very cool aura, and there are these little moments where like something slips out, specifically with Hawk, but she like bottles it really quickly. And of course, then when things are allowed to come to the surface, it's dazzling and sharp and precise. Pina is a therapist and a sexologist, so that comes into play a lot. And Penelope Cruz has this quality where you can feel her kind of analyzing the room and the dynamic at all times, and you can feel how like at home and present she is in her body, with her sexuality, with her aura. Like, she's so comfortable in her skin. It's a really cool performance. I think also enhancing this film obviously is Olivia Wilde behind the camera. I think this is her best directorial effort yet. I think this is her most confident piece of direction. Every single thing she does has a purpose. In particular, I really love the way she plays with the framing of each shot and how it brilliantly elevates the dynamics at the center of each conversation. She's often relying on various windows and entryways to kind of help emphasize it. From the opening credits, there's this fun little opening credit montage with these highly stylized squares and rectangles across the screen, and that carries over into like the actual structure of the apartment we're in. When Joe and Angela are at odds with one another, they occupy the frame on their own. Sometimes one will exit the frame only for the other to take up that space. Other times she emphasizes the space between the two of them, capturing them on opposite ends of the room in one single shot. Sometimes Pina and Hawk make their way in between the two and emphasize the way that neither can agree on how to address or not address their problems with their neighbors. There are moments when they're fighting when someone is in the foreground and the other is in the back, and they are literally on top of each other as they are fighting, as neither is listening to the other. And then there are these moments when Joe and Angela kind of simmer and they start to come back to one another, and they'll wander back into the frame, and they emanate this closeness that once felt out of reach moments ago. Pina and Hawk are presented similarly, however, they spend a lot of time together, and when they are apart, they are being framed with Joe and Angela and like those different configurations. They're rarely framed alone. They're rarely framed alone until like towards the end, or when there is like an intimate like close-up when we really need to get in there. It's really smart. It's really great. Going off the window thing, it feels like we are like an observer to this. It always kind of feels like we're a fly on the wall, and we really shouldn't be watching this because we are looking in on this really intimate experience. There's also a lot of use of mirrors. Someone will be talking to another character, but that character is present in the frame via the reflection. It's present in moments when like that character is aspiring to the other character. There's also these moments when the mirror is moved and like that character should reflect inward. I think it's really smart, really smart. Olivia Wilde, along with cinematographer Adam Newport Barra, really maximizes this limited setting. That was the other big thing that really impressed me both times I've seen this movie. It transforms this apartment into kind of a playground with limitless potential. It never feels stale, it never feels boring or repetitive. Every room carries a different energy, and although we're not like physically doing anything on screen to like make the room feel different, like it does. It just transforms, it feels alive, and that's just up to, you know, how Newport Bear and Wilde film the thing. The walls feel like they're closing in on characters when things grow tense and uncomfortable. And other times we use this empty space and make it feel endless and force the audience to sit in the emptiness. I also think just the decision to shoot it on film on 35 is brilliant. It's tactile. It looks really, really great. Not to plug an interview, but I did get to interview Olivia Wilde and we talked about that. That's on my YouTube short, so check that out. Also, I need to shout out the score by Devonte Hines. I think this score is really dramatic and really revs up the tension, and it really, really helps like add to the overstimulation and the chaos. It's beautiful. It is its own character here. I think this is a really great movie. The first time I saw it, I was like, it feels nice to just like watch a grown-up movie, in the sense that this is about adults wading into the messiness of their relationships and just like owning it. This movie is so much about connection and how that connection can kind of go off the fritz when we're not like listening and seeing each other, when we're not in conversation. I think there's a lot of interesting points about like being uncomfortable and like how do we maintain a relationship? How do we keep a relationship from growing stale or resentful? I think there's a lot of conversation to be had about like pleasure and like listening to your partner and working with your partner to make sure their needs are met as well as your own. I think it's fascinating in that way. And not to spoil anything, but there is a conversation that is had where basically it culminates in like, you know, a relationship can end two ways. We can end the relationship literally and start a new one with someone else, or like a relationship can end in terms of like the patterns and the ruts we're stuck into, and we can start again with the same person. And I think it weighs those options beautifully and really gets to the core of like why we pick the people we do and why we want to stay with those people. I yapped too long about this movie. I think this is brilliant. Both times I saw it were really fulfilling. The first time I just kind of like really got lost in the experience of it, and the second time I was really able to pick out a lot of these technical things. But I think it's great. It's Olivia Wilde's best movie. I think it should be on everybody's radar. It is gradually expanding throughout the summer. I know there's a lot of big options coming this summer, but I urge you to make time for it. It is one of my favorites of the year. I have it at 4.5 stars right now. I foresee it making end of year lists. It's wonderful. Thank you so much for checking out this review. Make sure you do all the things you're supposed to do with the YouTube channel. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, follow me everywhere, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.